sue her civilly.
Correct.
Because clearly the accident was her fault.
Correct.
Were you taken to the hospital that day?
We both were.
And you were taken to jail?
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a driving test? Month and year.
I haven't taken no driving test.
When was the last time you took a driving test, madam? You failed twice. So I want to know when the last time was that you took a driving test.
I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Did you take a driving test in the year 2021?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pass that driving test?
No.
Was that your third or fourth driving test?
That was the second.
No, you took two, according to your friend, before 2020.
I know.
So I asked you, in 2021, did you take it? You said yes, you didn't pass it. And I asked you, was that the third or the fourth test that you had?
That was my second.
No. I don't know how much more that a court system can do, but to say to people who don't have driver's licenses, especially in your case where you tried to get a license but failed to pass on at least 2 occasions before this incident, which means that you were a risk to be on the road because you couldn't pass a driving test twice before this incident. Now you want to tell me whether you, and this requires a short answer, not one of your long ones. Did you have your mother's permission to take the car that day to pick her up and go to the beach?
No.
Have you ever had your mother's permission to take the car and go anywhere?
No.
So in effect, if you had no license and you didn't ask for permission, then you stole the car.
No.
What do you mean no? You
did.
didn't have permission of the owner to take the car. You weren't a licensed driver. Therefore, there was no insurance. Well, let's go back. Did you ever ask your mother to use the car?
No, not at all.
And what happened after you had this accident in your mother's car and after you got out of jail? What happened between you and your mother?
Well, she was sad because I was in jail, and well, she was also mad because, like, why would I take the car without her permission?
Why did you take the car without her permission?
Well, I honestly didn't thought that this would happen.
Nobody thinks that an accident is going to happen. I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people.
No.
I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people. Are you ready to say I'm very sorry yet?
Yeah, I told them we have talked before, I told them that I was sorry, and I'm telling them again that I'm sorry.
Good. That's better. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I'm really pleased with the judge's decision.
I didn't see anything until the guy hit the windshield.
So we're here, and we're grateful for that.
I was super scared. Like, I was like, I killed them. Like, I was crying in jail.
We both have to deal with physical injuries, but like Lisa said, it was the unluckiest and luckiest moment of our life. So we're grateful that we're here.
Being pretty close to 18 myself, I can understand.
Michael Griniger is suing truck mechanic Sean Antle for a truck engine and repair costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2022, Griniger versus Antel.
Thank you. Mr. Griniger, how long have you and the defendant been friends?
I've known Sean probably maybe 3 or 4 years now.
From where?
He lives about 3 blocks away from me. I've met him through another friend that told me he worked on his vehicles before.
You did mechanical work?
Yes.
What kind of business are you in?
Construction, you name it, anything construction.
And you have a couple of trucks?
Yes.
How many?
I have one commercial vehicle, and then I just have a Chevy Avalanche.
The commercial vehicle, would you describe it to me? That's the one he was supposed to work on?
Yes.
Describe it to me, please.
It's a 16-foot box truck.
How old?
97.
1997.
Yes, ma'am.
It's as old as Sarah. And I suppose it needed a little work.
Yes.
And you took it to your friend.
Yes.
Did you drive it over there to his house 2 or 3 blocks away? Did you have it towed over to his place?
We had to have it towed over there. It was operable before.
But you had it towed?
Yes.
Yeah. And what month and year did you have it towed there?
I believe this started in June of 2020.
And Mr. Antel, you looked at it and you determined it needed a new engine.
Well, I looked at it. Actually, I did some work prior to that. The intake manifold gasket was...
You mean before June of 2020?
Yes.
And then the truck was running? Then he took back...
Running very crappy.
So it was not running well even after you fixed it?
After I put the intake gasket on, I had it started, it made the same noise. We decided to put an engine in it.
Okay, so it wasn't working after the initial work you did on it?
No.
Decided to put an engine in it. Now, how much was it to work on the engine?
He gave me a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. It was not all in one lump sum.
How much did he give you?
It was 100 here once, 100 here twice, a couple different times, you know.
How much money did you give him?
800.
How much did you quote him for the whole job?
1,000.
So he gave you 800, and according to the papers that Mr. Griniger filed, he also purchased an engine.
Yes.
And this was in June of 2020.
I didn't get the motor at my house until I'm trying to think. It was in the winter, it was in December.
Of 2020?
Yes, 2020, yep.
Do you have the date that you purchased the engine?
Yes.
What was it?
January 7th, 2021.
Okay, so the truck sat on his property for 6 months.
Yes.
Before you got the engine, which was needed to fix it.
Yes. He said it was the intake plenum.
Was that in June of 2020?
Yeah, that's when it began. That's the whole...
Okay. When did he tell you that you needed an engine? In what month? Do you recall?
That was in January.
So the truck sat there, and finally you told him that it needed a new engine, but it was already sitting there for months.
I told him 2 or 3 months prior to that.
Okay, so it was sitting there for 3 months or
Yes.
4 months?
Yes.
And he'd already paid you the $800?
He gave me a little bit here and there, yes.
They already paid you the $800 towards the $1,000. So this is what the case is about. The truck has never been fixed. He doesn't have the engine anymore. He scrapped the engine, according to him. Yes. So you want what you paid for it, the engine.
Yes, Your Honor.
First of all, Mr. Ansel said, well, he worked on another truck for you, a smaller truck, and so that ate up the $800. And you didn't come for the engine, and finally he just sold it for scrap. Mr. Antel, were you very busy during this period of time?
Not really, no.
Well, could you tell me why it took 3 months for you to tell him that he needed a new engine?
He knew after I put the plenum gasket back on. I called him on the phone.
What month?
It had him in November, right before Thanksgiving.
So at the end of November. So you had the truck since June. June, July, August, September, October. You had the truck 6 months. Could you tell me why?
Why? I had problems with it. I couldn't get the bumper off. I couldn't do none of that.
Well, but that's your responsibility. You undertook a job.
Yeah, I took the job because he was supposed to help me, and he never did.
He was supposed to help you put in the new engine?
Help me get the bumper off, and then I had problems with the city of Brooklyn Center.
No. He was supposed to help you get the bumper off, and because you couldn't get the bumper off, you couldn't do the engine. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because it was rusted solid.
Shh. I assume, I've read your papers, I assume this is the mechanic that you say helped you work on another car for him that you gave money to?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why he's here.
Yep.
Okay. In what month and year did you fix this other car?
January
of 2021.
2022.
So in January 2022, the truck was where?
The Avalanche.
The big one.
At his house, at Mike
And
Griniger's.
he brought you another truck?
Yes.
Which other truck did he bring you in?
The Chevy Avalanche.
The big truck, the commercial truck, is now back at his house.
Yes.
And it went back to his house because they were going to tow it from the city.
Yes.
And you say in January, he then brought you a different truck.
Yes, of 2022.
That you worked on.
Yeah, completed it.
Just a second. Do you recall that, sir?
No, it's not exactly how it went.
Did you, in January of 2022, did you bring him, you had the big commercial truck back at your house because
Yep.
it had to be moved.
Yep.
You hadn't gotten your $800 back?
Nope.
And he still had the engine?
Yep.
In January of this year?
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is
sorry.
an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Sean Antle owes for a truck engine and repair costs. Sean is countersuing, claiming Michael filed a false police report against him.
Now, you hadn't gotten your $800 back?
Nope.
And he still had the engine?
Yep.
In January of this year?
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is
sorry.
an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Because then I had Absolutely no transportation. I needed something to work.
Just a second. You have a big truck, you had a little truck. So the big truck is now immobile, it's at your house. And the only working vehicle that you had needed work on it.
Yes.
So you brought it to him.
Yep.
Not you. That's
yep.
yes.
Yes.
And he worked on it.
Yes.
Because it was inoperable.
No, it was operable, but he told me that.
Not he told you. You didn't bring it to him because he told you you were having trouble with it.
Yes.
What kind of trouble were you having with it?
There was a grinding.
Oh, that's a big deal. Grinding sound.
Yes.
What parts did it need?
Well, he told me it was the transfer case.
Did he fix your truck?
Eventually, but it was the rear end.
Just a second. Eventually, did he fix, take your hands out of your pockets, did he fix the truck? The second one? The smaller one?
Yeah.
The one that you needed for transportation?
Yes, eventually, yes, he did. He put in a rear end.
Okay. Did you pay him for that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How much did you pay for that?
$300.
How long did he have it?
Oh, he did that within about a week.
2 days. 2 days.
Okay. So it took you 2 days?
Yes.
Did you give him a bill for that work?
I didn't give him nothing, just a word of mouth.
He says that he gave you $300 to fix that car. Did he give you $300 to fix that car?
No, he did not.
Okay, do you have any proof?
$600 altogether.
Just a second. Would you please show me any proof that you have that you gave him $300 to fix that car?
I don't have proof of the money that I gave him. I just have the receipt.
He doesn't got it.
Shh.
Okay.
I just have the receipts for the parts that I bought for the vehicle.
Okay.
He first said it was the transfer case. I buy a transfer case.
Doesn't matter. He's working, so.
Yeah, but I paid him to do something. He took something apart of the truck. It wasn't even the problem. But yet I still paid him for it.
But this, quite honestly, I don't understand.
And then I paid him for the rear end, too.
I don't understand a couple of things.
Okay.
If I've been disappointed by a workman, as you clearly were, from June 2020 until January 2022, because they hadn't completed a job for you, despite the fact that you purchased the part, I wouldn't call that same mechanic back. I wouldn't call that same plumber back. I wouldn't call that same electrician back because I'd had a bad experience with them. So it confounds me as to why you would take another vehicle to him if you were so dissatisfied with his work.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, so what?
Felt like I was in, in a tight spot, and I really couldn't
What kind of tight spot were you in? Where do you live?
I live in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, that's a big town. There are lots of mechanics there. There are lots of auto repair, truck repair.
Yeah, but I really financially couldn't afford, legitimate.
Well, that's what happens when you deal with a legitimate. But I don't understand why an otherwise intelligent man would take his only semi-operating vehicle to the same person who had his truck for a year and didn't fix it. Listen, what'd you do with his engine?
I scrapped it.
Okay. Don't be mad at me.
Huh?
Don't be mad at me.
I'm not. I love you.
Okay, good. Thank you. When did you scrap it?
The end of April of 2022.
Did you give him any notice that you were going to scrap his engine?
No, I did not. There's a false police report made against me.
Okay.
I have the case number and the officer's number.
Okay, just a sec. So you retaliated because that's your counterclaim, that he filed a false police report, as a result of which, and the false police report said that during the course of a heated argument about this truck, that he says that you pulled a gun and
Did not.
filed a police report.
No, I didn't.
Don't.
You did.
Prove it. You can't.
Mr. Rantel. And that's your counterclaim, that he filed this false police report and nothing ever came of it except you were embarrassed by being questioned by the police in front of family members.
Yes.
And as a result of that false police report, you threw away his motor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, you can't do that. That you can't do. How much did you pay for the motor, sir?
$690 plus I paid $100 for delivery of the motor.
I'd like to see the invoice for that.
I got the invoice for the motor, but
That's all I need.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Rantel, so that we're clear, you have to understand you can't get even by selling somebody else's property.
I didn't
What you
sell
do?
it. I didn't sell it. I
Scrap.
gave it away.
It doesn't matter. By disposing of. Let's make it disposing of. When you say you scrapped it, you mean nobody gave you $10 for it?
Not a dime.
Okay, then you can't give it away in retaliation
Why
for
not?
filing.
Why not? It was in my possession.
No, because you took.
Try to put me in jail for not
just a
something I
second.
didn't do.
Just a second. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. You cannot sell someone else's property in retaliation for them doing something to you when you have legal recourse. Your legal recourse is to come here and file a case. You did it as a counterclaim and say he filed a false police report against me that I was using a gun. So that's what you do. The response to that isn't, I'm going to sell his property. That's not your response. You know, when I used to sit in family court, I had young people, one of whom was selling drugs for a very long time, heavy drugs. Kid, 15, 16 years old. And he had 6 or 7 priors for selling heavy-duty drugs. And I tried that case, and there was no question he was selling drugs. And his lawyer's argument at the disposition stage of that case was he was selling drugs because his grandmother died. I said, I lost all my grandparents, and I was close to my grandparents. I did a lot of things. I grieved, lost my appetite for a while. I was sad, but I didn't sell drugs. So when somebody does something to you that you believe is against the law, your responsibility is you file a case against them.
Right.
You proceed legally against them. You don't take it out in another way, because that doesn't make a civilized society. Just doesn't. That makes sort of a vigilante kind of thing. So you shouldn't do that. So you have to pay him for his engine. Now, as far as the second piece of your case is the $800 that you gave him, I have no idea how much it was to fix your second car, but he did in fact fix it. And since you had no particular agreement with him on how much it was, and according to you, you couldn't deal with someone, you didn't have the funds to deal with someone who was, I think the word was legitimate.
Legitimate.
That's a problem that I can't resolve for you. Now let's get to this argument and his counterclaim. The argument that you had was over the truck.
The white truck? Yes.
Any truck. I don't care what
Yes.
truck. I'm not a truck girl myself. I like 4-door comfortable sedans. And this argument took place on what date? Why don't you tell me, Mr. Rantel, because this is your counterclaim.
It was the end of April.
End of April of 2022.
Yes.
And the police were called.
No, ma'am.
Yes, the police were called. They showed up at my place.
No, the police report is 7/25/22.
7/25/22.
May I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am. Or, Your Honor.
That's a lie, because it was April.
I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
Truck mechanic Sean Ansel of wrongfully selling his engine and threatening him. Sean claims Michael accused him of flashing a gun he never owned.
Now, I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Gruniger?
About a year now.
What were you doing driving a vehicle?
I wasn't. They were towing the vehicle with a tow chain.
I understand that. But you drive a vehicle, sir.
I was steering the vehicle.
What does that mean, you were steering the vehicle?
Driving it.
The vehicle
Just-
moving at 4 miles an hour.
I don't care if it was
Behind-
running backwards. I just asked you. You have no license because, according to the police, you having a driver's license would be inimical to public safety. That's what it says here. Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Serious ones? Yes. Okay. You don't need a truck. You don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? It's only going 4 miles an hour. I will set the rules of what it is that means driving. You go 5 miles an hour, it's really not
He lives
driving.
3 blocks away from him. We were just
I don't care.
towing it down the street.
I don't care whether you were in the kitchen, he was in the laundry room. And when you spoke to the police, Mr. Gruniger, there were 2 other witnesses, and you would not give them the last name or contact information for either of them. Is that right? That's what it says here, unless it's calling the
Yeah,
police
I didn't know
lights.
his last name.
And you wouldn't give them your son's name because you say he doesn't like police.
And that I want to make straight. That is not true. I would not tell a police officer my son
Should be
doesn't
noted
like
that
police.
Gruniger stated that Michael Jr. would not give a statement because he didn't like police.
Right.
As well as
That's
Gruniger
not
would
true.
not
My little
give a
brother's
phone
a
number
police
for Michael
officer.
Jr. I'm just telling you, I'm reading you what
I know, I'm
what
sorry.
you handed me. It's your evidence.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okie dokie. Did you make an application, Mr. Gruniger, for any sort of protective order against him?
No.
No. You were advised by the police that you could do that if you wanted to.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, that report is interesting.
It was you, your son, and this person, Kyle, who were present, and only Mr. Rantel. Is that right? When this confrontation took place?
Yes.
And according to you, you got out of your truck and you started walking towards him aggressively. That's according to you.
That's not
according.
true. He's 40 feet away from me.
No. According to you, I'm reading you what your police report says, sir.
Yeah, but
I'm reading what your police report says based upon what you told the police at the time back in April.
it's not entirely correct.
Griniger stated that he started advancing towards Antel. Griniger also stated that he called Antel you while he was walking towards him. It should be noted that Griniger stated, and this is all on body cam, that he was walking towards Antel aggressively. Griniger stated that Antel then pulled what he described as a black handgun out of his sweatshirt pocket. He described it as black and silver trim. He stated that he did not point it or say anything, just showed it to him to make you aware that he was carrying. And after the police interviewed both of you and confirmed the two people with you were out and you were walking and confronting him aggressively, called his names, and could not confirm the fact that he had a gun, took out a gun, not pointed it to you, just showed you that he had it, they decided to do nothing. That's what you're telling me. That's what this report says.
Yeah, they didn't validate it as a threat.
They did not validate it at all.
Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Rantel.
Yes.
What happened after that report is that police officers came to your house to ask you about that.
Yes.
Right? And you said, related practically the same thing that Mr. Griniger did to the police, that he approached you, that he called you a name, that he was aggressive. You said all of that.
Yes.
But you said you did not have a gun.
That's right.
Okay. And this is not meant to hold you criminally responsible for anything. Mr. Antel, have you ever had possession of a gun?
No.
Ever in your life?
No.
Did you ever purchase a gun?
No.
In your state, in order to purchase a gun legally, do you have to go through a process or is it a carry state?
You gotta go through a legal process.
You have to?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever arrested for carrying a gun?
No.
Other than your statement that he showed you that he had a gun, and how far was he standing from you?
About 40 feet.
40 feet away. And you saw him take something out of his sweatshirt pocket.
He didn't remove it out of his pocket. He removed his hand covering it.
What does that mean?
It was in his pocket. He was wearing a hoodie.
How do you know it was in his pocket? What do you have, X-ray vision?
No, my son seen it because his vehicle was right alongside his vehicle. So my son seen it, and then when he got back in his car and pulled up another 10 feet and got out of his car, turned around and said, yeah, bring it, and a few expletives, and then pulled his hand out of his hoodie pocket and revealed the handle of the gun.
Just a second. So you're saying at that time you saw it?
Yes.
You saw it, not your son
My
40
son
feet away,
actually seen it on
not
the
son
seat
40
of his
feet away.
car.
That's a lie.
But you
And
saw
he reached in and grabbed it and put it in his sweater because when he got back out of the car to face me is when he decided to show me he had a gun.
Okay. Were you out of your truck at the time?
Yes, I was standing beside
Okay,
him.
so you were out of your truck. And what about your son? Was he out of the truck?
Nope.
He was in. What about Kylie?
He remained in the truck too. He was the one in front pulling the truck that I was steering, and he was following behind. It was a little convoy.
And Mr. Rantel was by himself?
Yes, he was driving down the street in the opposite direction.
Mr. Rantel, I am not satisfied, quite frankly, and cannot make a determination whether or not you had a gun or what appeared to be a gun or what appeared to be something in your pocket or whether you even moved your hand in your pocket to demonstrate maybe you had a weapon. I don't find that the acts that you allege that he committed by filing this false police report is something that I can justify giving you a financial award for, because I'm not so sure that you didn't have something in your pocket.
I didn't have
I'm not sure. In any event, Mr. Rantel, you owe him for the engine that you discarded in a peak. You can't do that. Cost of the engine was $590, right? $590. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Ma'am,
We're finished.
Your Honor.
We're
Court
done.
is adjourned.
I was kind of in a hard spot. I needed my truck fixed.
Try to push me and push me.
I trusted him.
It didn't work today. I won.
Truck is inoperable. It's sitting in my backyard.
I worked for what he gave me.
So I really couldn't afford, like I said, a legitimate shop or a mechanic.
I've never owned a pistol.
Yeah, he's lying.
Basically, if I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna fight with my bare hands.
Don't do anything without any receipts.
Our friendship is through.
You know, it's really hard when you have two difficult people, but there was something about what he said that had the ring of truth to it.
Very honest.
A directness. And I'm really not convinced, were you?
No, I wasn't either.
That he had a gun?
It could have gone either way, and while I believed his outburst of innocence. I couldn't imagine making something like that up, but maybe that's just me. So it was really difficult. I don't think I could have made a determination either way either.
Yeah, and I think the answer is here. If you can't make a decision one way or another, it's not supposed to be a guess. It's supposed to be by some evidence.
Yeah.
But you can't sort of take the law into your own hands, and if you filed a
True.
police report, I'm going to scrap his engine. That's inappropriate. But with regard to the $800 that he paid him, there's no question he worked on the other truck. And he
Even
said he
if
worked on
didn't
it
have
for
a
2
license
days.
to drive it.
And the plaintiff didn't have a license to drive it anyway.
Yeah.
And Sarah, didn't he say, I needed one functional vehicle? So something like
We'll
that.
have to get Whitney to read it back.
Yeah.
Case number 2061, Laura versus Burke. All parties, please step forward.
Michael Lara is suing car seller Donald Burke for a vintage car title.
Mr. Lara,
Yes, Your Honor.
you had a truck,
Yes.
and that truck was a 2007
Yes, Your Honor.
Nissan Frontier.
Correct.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in 2019
From whom?
from a private owner. I don't have his name, but I purchased it over on an auto app.
So you found it online.
Yeah.
So it's still online. How much did you pay for the car in 2019?
In 2010, I paid $10,000.
I don't believe that. Let's try it one more time, Mr. Lara. Exactly how much did you pay for the car in 2019?
$10,000, Your Honor.
Show me a bill of sale.
I don't have that bill of sale from back then.
Okay.
I have only the title that I had.
Okay. Let's assume for the moment that that's almost accurate because the truck is now worth.
Somewhere between $8,000 and $9,000.
So that would be a depreciation. So now it's worth $8,000.
Okay.
You decided to sell it.
Correct. To trade it?
And you put an ad online to sell it?
Yes, I did.
You, Mr. Burke, had a 1947 classic Chrysler sedan.
Yes.
When did you get that?
Beginning of the year,
Beginning of 20.
22.
And where did you get it from?
A car dealer had it for sale.
Car dealer where?
Montclair, California.
You remember the name of the car dealer?
No, ma'am, I don't.
But it was the beginning of 2022.
Yes.
And was it an ad online?
No, I was driving by and saw the car. I kind of liked the way it looked.
How much did you pay for it?
$12,500.
Do you have a bill of sale?
No,
That was just this year. Why don't you have a bill of sale?
I have the registration and title.
I don't need the registration and title. I need a bill of sale.
I don't have one.
Difference when you buy it from a private party. But if you buy, do you have? It was the beginning of January. How did you pay for the car?
Cash.
Cash. Do you have a withdrawal from your bank of $12,500 to show me?
No, I don't.
Well, how do you expect me to decide this case? You have a claim, you have a counterclaim. Nobody has any proof. How do you expect me to decide? Each of you is suing the other for $10,000 without any proof of anything. How do you expect me to decide that?
Correct, Your Honor.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yes.
Michael Lara claims car seller Donald Burke owes him the title to a vintage car. Donald is countersuing, claiming Michael broke their agreement.
Okay. Do you have a car now?
Yes, I have a 2001 GMC truck.
No. You have his car.
Oh, yes, I have his car. Yes,
You
Your Honor.
have his car.
Yes.
And you have his truck.
Yes.
What do you want me to do?
I wasn't the one that started this.
Okay, Your Honor,
He doesn't have the title.
Well, he never produced the money that he was supposed to produce.
I have his title to his vehicle. He signed it over to me, and he gave me the keys as well.
Okay. I didn't ask you anything. Well, I want you have the title, you have the keys, you have the truck.
Correct, Your Honor.
My question to you is you have the title to his car. He paid, let's assume he's correct, that he paid $12,500 for the car in the beginning of 2022. That car, which is a classic car, is now for sale, because I looked it up, I don't remember the numbers, for?
Between $18,000 and $60,000 on the high end of what I've seen.
Okay, so it's worth considerably more than what you paid for it. Roughly $10,000 more than what you paid for it, right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't know him, do you?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
There would be no reason why he would make you a gift. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you have the title for that car
Yes.
because you say according to you, that he didn't fulfill his promise,
Correct.
his contract, to pay you an additional amount for it. Now, you say he agreed to pay you an additional $10,000 for it.
Yes.
I don't know that because none of it's in writing. Anybody have any proof of that?
No, Your Honor.
No. Yeah, good. And you want your car back.
I would just,
You want your car. Well, I'm not giving you $10,000. I want you to just understand that.
Yes.
Because you have no proof here of anything that satisfies me. So I'm asking you, you want nothing or do you want your car back?
What's your $10,000?
I'd rather have my car back than nothing.
You'd rather than have your car back. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
you have the car.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And you put in some money in the truck.
Yes, the catalytic converters were bad.
How much money did you put into the truck?
$2,165.
Okay. And you have proof of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where?
Can I help him?
I don't need you for anything.
Here. And it still needs another $2,165 for the other side.
And you have the title to the car, is that right?
Yes.
Now, do you want nothing or do you want your truck back, even though he added money to it? Do you want nothing or do you want your truck back? That's my question to you. You want nothing or you want your truck back?
My truck.
Great. And you want your car back?
Yes.
Perfect. And both of you have agreed, because there was clearly some misunderstanding between the two of you, giving you the total benefit of the doubt, sir, that there was additional money to be forthcoming. I'm speaking. Understand this. Neither one of you are leaving here with a penny. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
No, I don't. I put
Very,
$2,000
very,
into
very,
his truck. I
very, very
repaired his
easy.
truck.
Very easy, sir. You're getting back a car that you say is worth, she says, is worth $20,000.
Your Honor. Sorry.
It's not going to work for you. You're going to each end up with your own cars back. Since there was clearly a misunderstanding about the nature of the contract, what I'm telling you is I'm going to prepare an order that within 5 days of today's date, you are to exchange cars. Figure out where you want to do that, a mutually convenient place. That's the order of the court. Goodbye.
Court is adjourned.
Not even the $2,000 I put into his truck.
Goodbye.
This way, sir.
You can sell your 47 for a lot more money.
I didn't bring us here. He brought us here.
I liked his car. He liked my truck. When I got there, we did the exchange. He signed the titles. He gave me the keys to the vehicle.
Well, he gave me a truck that needed a $4,000 repair, and he didn't mention that when he gave it to me. And my car, was nothing wrong with my car.
I have always maintained my vehicle. I have records of it and everything.
I'll just keep my car.
No more business deals.
So I really agree with you that there was no meeting of the minds, because the defendant thought that the plaintiff was going to pay him an additional $10,000 for the 1947 Chrysler, and no one had any proof of anything. So it's really hard to come to court with zero proof on either side. So I think your ruling to leave them how they were found prior to any what they believed to be a contract was the right decision, because
I'm so glad you felt that way.
well, I mean, I was thinking to myself, looking over the papers, what's she going to do with this one? You know, it's hard because with no proof and a he said, she said verbal agreements with tangible items like vehicles, I probably would have done the same thing. I don't know what to make of this. I have nothing to look at, nothing to rely on.
And it was so interesting because they both bought these cars recently.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of them had bill of sale, said he paid cash, $12,500, showed me where you withdrew the money from a bank. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was suspicious to me. So to me, the easiest thing to do was leave the parties
as you found them.
As you found them. They had no contract because there was no meeting of the minds as to what the particulars were of the contract. You get your truck back in a little better shape. You get your car back probably in a little better shape, and
be on your way.
Moss is suing his former friend, Nadine Drury, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, everybody.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Case number 2015, Moss versus Jury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moss, prior to leasing an apartment with the defendant, had you known each other?
Sort of.
Tell me a sort of.
So we met one time about a year prior. We have mutual friends, one of which had asked me to get ordained to marry her and her husband. So I flew in town to do that, and Nadine was there at their house when I flew in. We saw each other for a few minutes, and that's actually the only time we've ever met in person.
And there came a time when you were looking for an apartment where?
I was looking for an apartment in the Salt Lake area.
And where had you been living?
In Seattle.
And where were you living, Miss Jury?
In Salt Lake City.
You were looking to move?
Yes.
So other than that one-time meeting when you were officiating at a mutual friend's wedding you hadn't met before, but somebody suggested that you were looking for an apartment, you were looking for a new apartment, and perhaps you could rent an apartment together.
Yes, that's
fair statement?
In fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in what month and year did that happen?
It would have been in October of 2020 that this arrangement sort of came to be like, hey, maybe you should see if Nadine...
Okay, but you did, in fact, sign a lease together. Who found the apartment?
Nadine did.
You did. Prior to signing the lease, Mr. Moss, had you seen the apartment?
No.
No is the answer. Did you ever see the apartment, other than videos or photographs of it?
No, I never saw
Prior to signing the lease?
Correct.
Also correct?
Correct.
On what date was the lease signed?
On the 7th of November of 2020.
The rent on the apartment was how much?
It was $585 a month each.
$1,170, Your Honor.
So $585 per month each. You both signed it on the same day. Did you move in?
I did.
On what date?
November 8th.
And you were still in Seattle?
Correct.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
Okay, and that is also correct?
Correct.
Because for whatever reason you decided to stay in Seattle?
Correct.
Is that work-related or socially?
Social.
And then you contacted her and told her that you weren't intending to move in.
Correct.
But that you would continue to pay your half of the rent. Is that also correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you were making a direct deposit to the account to pay the rent?
Yeah, it was an automatic payment from my account to the rental.
To the rental office?
Yes, to the rental office.
Then you came to find that Miss Jury had stopped paying her portion of the rent. When did you stop making payments on your portion of the rent?
In January.
So you paid either full or partial for November because you moved in on the 8th, and you paid December's rent.
Correct.
And you stopped paying rent in January. Why?
I lost my job in December of 2020.
So I'm going to outline now what this case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Moss continued paying his half of the rent until you found a roommate.
Correct.
And you found a roommate when?
I believe I found him in February, and he moved in the month of March and started paying his half of the rent.
So you didn't pay rent January or February,
Correct.
2 months.
Correct.
And you had no work.
Correct.
When you found out that the rent wasn't being paid, according to you, in order to not impact your credit, you spoke to her. She said, I don't have a job. And you said, I can help you out. I'll send you money. Mm-hmm. Is that generally what happened? Then I'll get into...
That's generally what happened, but there is a little more detail to it.
I'm going to let you get to the details.
All right.
And you want that money back. The money that you advanced her in her time of need, which was how much in total?
The total is $3,360. She did at some point pay me $300 back, so the amount I am seeking is $3,060.
Okay. Are those figures accurate?
Yes.
And he gave you that money, not because you were good friends, because you were a relative. He had met you one time.
Right.
And he had, in fact, said to you, I will continue to pay my rent, even though I know you from hole in the wall. I will continue because I signed this lease until you find someone to get me off the lease.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your defense, it seems to me, to this action is that he was really trying to scam the government by depleting his bank account so he could collect food stamps or whatever.
No.
And as a result of that, because he wasn't being honest with the government, you shouldn't have to pay him back. I just want to know if that's what I'm reading correctly.
There was never an agreement
No.
payback.
That's a different story. I'm going to read this over because, you know, I'm getting elderly, and I may not have recalled exactly what you said in your answer. It doesn't say that here. It says several months later, it's after you found a new roommate, Emmett randomly reached out to me saying that I owed him money and demanded that I take out a personal loan to pay it. I refused. Emmett has some nerve. Not only did he break the lease, well, what difference does that make to you? He still was paying his half of the rent. So now you had a whole apartment by yourself and he was paying the rent, right? So why does he have some nerve? But he took advantage of me and used me to scam the system. So that's what I understand your defense is.
It is. I have video evidence, Your Honor.
Video of what?
Of Emmett.
Of Emmett what?
Of Emmett explaining why he was trying to get on assistance and how he was like, it's fine for you to pay rent with this money because I'm trying to empty my bank account so that I can get on food stamps.
It is true.
Okay, just a second. Just a second. Let's say that's true. He's going. I'm just trying to. Shh.
Owes for unpaid loans. Nadine says Emmett broke the lease they were both on.
I'm just trying to get your mindset. I hate people who scam the system. But you got this money from him.
Mm-hmm.
And your defense is that he was trying to scam somebody else, so you shouldn't really have to pay him back, even though it was his money.
It was his money.
It was his money that he took out of his bank and gave to you.
Right.
For no reason.
That I never agreed to pay back for a lease that he was legally on. He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You mean so you get to live there free?
No,
Well,
no.
just a second. So you get to live there free. If he paid for it for the months that you didn't, you got to live there free. He wasn't even living there. It's not as if he was living there and you didn't get to live there free. You lived there alone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was paying the rent.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you're not responsible for that once you get back on your feet?
We never talked about a repayment.
No.
That's not.
Okay. Now,
We definitely talked about repayment.
Now, I want you to explain to me and be very careful because, I've been in this system a very long time. So I know about social services and I know about the system and I know about welfare and I know about food stamps. I know all about that. So you contact her.
Yes.
And she tells you she lost her job.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. So I found out through the payment portal that she hadn't paid rent.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're
I
past
contacted
that.
her about that. Well, there was.
Don't look up.
Apologies. I sent her money that night.
No. You contacted the portal, and then you had to have had a conversation with her.
Right.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Let's start with you contacted the portal, and you found out she hadn't been paying her rent. That was in January.
Correct. January the 2nd.
And January, she hadn't paid rent, and you called her, and she said to you...
She said to me that she didn't have money to pay, which I was aware of because she had previously told me that she I was aware that she had lost her job.
Just a second. How did you become aware that she had lost her job?
Because we were friendly with each other. We were talking several times a week via Facebook Messenger.
Fine. You knew that she lost her job.
Yes.
And I assume you knew if she lost her job and you were speaking several times a week. Let's be very careful. This isn't just calling the pay portal and finding out that this stranger who you met once wasn't paying her rent. You were speaking and you knew that she had fallen on difficult times. And?
I did. I didn't...
Don't go up here. Right here.
I didn't know that she wasn't going to pay rent on time.
No, just a second.
You
didn't know what?
On the 2nd was when I found out that the rent hadn't been paid.
On the 2nd of January?
The 2nd of January.
Just look at me. Mm-hmm. On the 2nd of January, you found out the rent hadn't been paid. What did you do?
So I called Nadine to ask about it, and she told me that she didn't have the money. And so I said, okay, I have these extra funds because I, at the time, was also unemployed. I had been taking unemployment payments, and then the COVID payment.
And what?
The extra payments for COVID on top of unemployment, because this was 2020.
Welcome to Inflation 101.
Right. So all of my payments had been late and had come in a lump sum. So that is why I had extra
So your
money.
unemployment and your COVID funds came in one lump sum.
Correct.
And I want you to think very, very carefully. Mm-hmm. And you're living where, sir?
Seattle.
With whom?
At the time, I was seeking a roommate.
No. Where were you living?
So I was living in Seattle.
In Seattle with whom?
No one.
By yourself?
Yes. Technically, someone was paying rent because they had moved out.
You're looking up at the sky.
Sorry.
Don't look up at the sky. So somebody had moved out of their apartment.
Yeah.
Which had been prepaid in rent.
Yes.
So you were living there rent-free.
No. This was my apartment that I'd lived in for 3 years. And someone else had moved in and then moved out. And they broke the lease, not me.
They broke the lease, but they paid the rent.
Correct. They paid their half. I was still paying my half of rent. I never defaulted on my rental payments in Seattle ever.
And they were still paying theirs?
Yes, so we were both each paying our respective parts of the rent. And I was paying rent in Utah.
And you were paying rent where the defendant was living?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want you to think very carefully. When you got your unemployment and your extra COVID money in a lump sum, how much did you get?
What?
No, don't look over there. You know exactly how much you got.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. Just give me a number.
$10,000.
Well, that should last you for a little bit. And you got $10,000 on what date?
I don't remember.
Month?
It would have been in November.
Okay, so now she's run out of funds, and you say to her, go ahead.
By the time we get to January, I do not have $10,000. I have much less because of other circumstances.
Like what?
Like needing to purchase a car for the girlfriend that I stayed in town.
A car?
Yes.
What else?
Rental payments. That's it. Nothing.
You bought your girlfriend a car?
I did. Her car that she had was a beater, and it was unsafe.
I don't care. What about your car?
I did use a down. I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars?
No, just one. I personally didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story. You're living by yourself with a roommate. The roommate moves out. Your girlfriend had a terrible car. You don't live with the girlfriend.
Don't.
But you bought her a car. You didn't have a car, but you bought her a car.
I had, if we need to back it up, I had given up my car in a bankruptcy earlier in the year because of...
In whose bankruptcy?
My bankruptcy.
Your bankruptcy.
That is why I didn't have a car.
It's getting better all the time. Okie dokie.
It was an interesting year.
That doesn't mean you don't owe money. It just means I have to know the characters that I'm dealing with.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
Emmett Moss has accused his former friend, Nadine Drury, of refusing to pay back loans. Nadine claims she was used by Emmett to scam the government.
So now you've got much less money from the $10,000. You bought your girlfriend a car, you had to pay her rent, you paid your own rent, you had other things from bankruptcies that you had before, so you have a little bit of money left in the bank.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
don't look over there, right here. No, look,
that evening of the 2nd, I paid Nadine a total of $710, enough to cover the rent of $585. Any fees it would cost her to go and withdraw that money from the bank. And she also asked for extra money for groceries.
Just a second. You acknowledge a $3,000 amount of money that he gave you. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that that's correct.
That includes the money that he's saying that he spent on rent, that he gave me for rent, and he's also asking for his deposit.
I am asking for my deposit.
The deposit for the apartment back.
Okay, well, he's entitled to that. You have a new roommate who I'm sure you got a deposit from.
She chose to not
And if you didn't?
collect a deposit from
What?
the roommate.
Well, that's her problem because
I
she's
agree.
going to get the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. She's going to get the deposit back when she leaves. When you leave, if you leave the place in good condition, he was never living there, so if you don't leave it in good condition, then it's on you. I want to know about this video that she wants me to look at, where you tell us some sort of a scheme you have to get more money from the government.
It wasn't a scheme.
Why don't you tell me about it? So far, we got $10,000 that was supposed to last you for 6 months, and you blew it on a car for your girlfriend. And so you may not call it a scheme. I want you to tell me why you had to have a zero bank account.
I didn't have to have a zero bank account.
A more limited access to money. What were you applying for, sir?
So
not so up here, so here.
Okay. I was applying for a program to go into the trades. So it was like a work study program, like electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. And again, I didn't have a job, and unemployment had completely stopped. And as far
How many years did you collect unemployment?
It was less than 1 year.
How many years had you worked?
How many years have I worked?
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 16. So
well,
it's
I'm
been
surprised
14.
the unemployment totally ran out because they kept extending unemployment. People were on unemployment for years during COVID.
When they cut me off December of 2020, they did not reestablish my claim. I kept applying and it was denied. So I don't know why, but it was.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work for customer service.
Okay. And the trade school that you wanted to go to was to prepare you for what?
To be an electrician was what I wanted to do.
An electrician?
Yes.
And was this an online program?
No, this was in person.
Where?
It was in Seattle.
And how much did they give you to go to that program?
They didn't give me money to go to the program, but the program was free of charge.
Okay. So the government paid the tuition?
I believe that
Well, somebody pays the tuition, sir.
Yeah.
So the government pays the tuition. And while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, how were you supporting yourself?
So...
Were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, I applied for food stamps and got food stamps. That is what I got.
So you applied for some sort of assistance while you were going to this trade school, which you're not practicing now, and you're not an electrician.
That is correct.
And in order to apply for food stamps, you have to have a certain amount of money is the maximum you can have in your bank.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's the fraud you're talking about. That's why he gave you the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean,
just a second.
I also gave her the money because she was going to need the money for rent. Like, it was one of those situations where it was mutually beneficial for me to give her the money, but it wasn't.
You're looking up at the sky. I understand what happened.
So I wasn't going to have any way to support myself. I needed something to. The $2,000 was going to cover the rent for my place. And my place in Seattle and my place in Utah, and then I wasn't going to have anything left.
I understand that it became mutually beneficial for you to advance her the money so that your bank account would have less in it so that you could receive assistance and also get free tuition at a trade school that you didn't use.
My intention was to use it, and I changed my decision later.
Do you think the trade school charged the government once you enrolled in it?
Yes.
Yes, of course they did. And you know how much the tuition was in the trade school? Yes, you have to know. No, it was free to you, but it wasn't free to the government.
Right,
the government pays.
$1,500 was what I was made to understand.
Baloney. You people really somehow deserve each other, but you owe him $3,000. Madam, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm a little bit shocked to be made out as a government scammer.
I mean, I lost my job and I wasn't able, and he bailed on the lease that he signed.
Because that wasn't ever my intentions.
I mean, I was alone. I had lost my job. I just didn't have any support.
Definitely careful about getting money from the government.
Just glad it's done. Glad I don't ever have to see him again.
Haven't had to do that since this whole situation, and I intend to keep it that way.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا حي على الصلاة